My name is Maxwell Nunes, and I worked on Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign, and I was the director of paid media. So I focus primarily on our paid advertising program online. So that sort of evolved throughout the whole campaign. I started in March of 2019, about a week after Pete's CNN town hall, which was sort of our breakout moment, where a lot of the country got introduced to Pete. So I came on, and in the beginning was obviously really focused on building and growing our email list and finding new people who were just learning about Pete. We were really fortunate that we didn't have to chase any of the debate goals. After that first CNN town hall, we passed 65,000 donors the day after his CNN town hall. But obviously, continuing to grow our list and making sure that we were converting folks into donors was the big thrust. And that's sort of what I was brought on to do and was focused on that. And we sort of had a unique position because Pete was relatively unknown to most people when he started running, that we viewed our acquisition campaign as also an introduction and persuasion campaign, because this was so many, the reach we had was so unprecedented and so different and so much larger than anything else we'd ever been able to do. So we thought of, yes, we wanted to capture people's email addresses, and yes, we wanted to ask them to become donors in our campaign, but we also wanted to make a really good first impression about Pete and sort of give people a little bit of who he was and why he was running, because otherwise it's like, why is this random man in a blue tie on my Facebook news feed? I guess in the beginning, one of our sort of biggest challenges and biggest sort of things was there was so much interest and so much search traffic around Pete throughout the spring, and sort of channeling that and finding the people who were like just trying to figure out who this guy was, and versus people who were excited to join our campaign and who wanted to sign up. That was key. So our sort of launch event in mid-April was a really big moment for us. Pete really did enter the campaign in an exploratory phase. Not like people say they're exploring a run when everyone knows they're going to run. He was really exploring what sort of the appetite was for someone with his story and his message, and if he could connect with voters. And so that the moment that we launched the campaign for real in April was a really big moment and a huge sort of fundraising day, obviously, for the campaign, and sort of the weeks after that.
They call me Mayor Pete. I am a proud son of South Bend, Indiana, and I am running for President of the United States.
And then to jump to the other end of the extreme, the sort of 5 days of winning the Iowa caucuses over and over and over. I think 5 times we were declared winners, but was an interesting event to be a part of. 3:00 the day after the caucuses is when the first batch of results were released, and that was when we were ahead, and that was a really big moment, and that was sort of...
Because tonight, an improbable hope became an undeniable reality. We know, by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation.
It was a crazy spike in traffic and volume, and sort of riding that wave over and over and over again for that week, as we were declared the winner so many times in different ways, was a big moments. Because you're spending a resource, a really valuable resource, and one that you don't have unlimited resources in this avenue. Like, I say this to everyone who's launching a digital ads campaign, is like, you have to have a goal first. So like, we are really focused on whatever goal that is, and then, executing a media plan and creative and optimization and all these sort of things, strategy centered around that goal. Are two sort of split goals, in that they sort of take different priorities at different times, where one, we're growing our email list and base of supporters online, and then 2 was persuading and introducing Pete's message to voters and caucus goers in the early states. And someone doesn't know if they're a persuasion target or a list building target. They sort of you're just interacting with them, and that was sort of why it was important for us to be putting our best foot forward. And our display campaigns in Iowa raised money. We were talking about, Pete's, climate plan, but people clicked off of that. They get to our website, they see a donate button, and Iowans, just like anybody online, sees a donate button and they want to give and support. So that happens. And the same thing happens with the persuasion campaigns, with the fundraising campaigns. Like, you're shaping someone's view of Pete. When we were launching new policies, we would run list building programs like, hey, we're rolling out a, Pete's Medicare for All Who Want It plan. And that was like changing someone's mind about Pete because they were learning about it for the first time. But our primary goal was, list acquisition. So like, as strategists, I think it's really important to be focused on goals and know why, in the ad space, why you're spending money on behalf of your candidate or campaign or organization. But knowing that a real person out there scrolling on Instagram has no clue what your goal is and doesn't care. They're just learning about what you're doing. Yeah. And I think throughout all of that, again, because we were introducing Pete and he was so much, he was a fresh face on the national scene, like knowing that we were introducing Pete to people for the first time was a part of everything we were doing, whether it's on the ground, online, in press and in communications, like across the board. Well, I'm really proud of the work we did to sort of help bring our relational organizing program online through our supporter stories that we told in Iowa. And we ended up capturing videos from almost all 99 counties in Iowa and had supporters record their own Pete stories about why they were going to caucus for him. And then we were able to sort of traffic and run those at the individual county level.
I'm Alvin Colburnus, a Worth County farmer.
My name is Allison Rasmussen, and I am from Waverly, Iowa. I am a Pete supporter because he is a supporter of public education.
We need people that understand climate so that we work for all the farmers that grow corn in the whole Midwest.
And I believe Pete Buttigieg should be our next president.
Well, we've all sort of learned always that all politics is local, and then taking that and combining that with cool digital strategies and tactics that are only available online is something I'm really proud of. And also just because I'm so incredibly proud of my team and the work that they did, and our whole campaign, but like that's doing something like that takes a village. And the work that organizers had to do to collect those stories and cultivate those relationships, like a campaign can't swoop in and try to get supporter stories from all 99 counties. Like that work had to be laid for months on the ground to cultivate and build those relationships. My team did an amazing job sort of chasing those. Our video team did a great job editing and putting those together. And then our trafficking team has to go out and, traffic ads for individual counties, which is no small task. So just sort of across the board, I'm proud of what it says about our campaign and how we were able to operate. And then also, we saw really high completion rates there and really great engagement because people were hearing from people, in their communities about why they were supporting Pete. Well, I don't know if people didn't think it would work, but the degree to which Pizza with Pete worked so well is exciting and surprising all at the same time. Like we know, these contests are sort of replicated over and over again. And that was our version of it that, has existed.
Chip in anything you can, even $1, to be automatically entered. And I hope I'll see you here in South Bend.
Obama did it in 2012. I'm sure people did it before then. We did a dinner with Hillary in 2016. But what I think was kind of interesting to learn was the Pizza with Pete was like the contest that always worked, like, and even better than like the going to the debate contest. But like Pizza with Pete was always on because it was always working. And it was simple. It was straightforward. It was something all of our supporters wanted to do. People love pizza and our supporters loved Pete. So combining that in a really simple way is something that worked really well throughout the whole course of the campaign up until the last hours. Pete likes to say running for office is an act of hope. But also donating to a campaign is an act of hope. Entering a contest where you might get to fly to South Bend or wherever and meet Pete is an act of hope. So it sort of speaks to sort of optimism and I can chip in $1 and, maybe who knows what could happen. To trust what you were seeing and what we were doing and not worry so much about what other folks were doing. I think we had this sort of unprecedented levels of transparency into what people were doing through the Facebook ad library and Google ad library transparency. And then also we had just such a big field and so many great people, and I have amazing friends and love and respect all the people on a lot of the other campaigns. So was able to sort of always curious about what other people were doing and seeing different strategies and tactics and creative messaging setups that people were doing. And, obviously sometimes you're like, hey, like I see that these people are doing this, this must be working for them. And then we would try it and it would not work. And I'm speaking specifically sort of on the acquisition fundraising side of things. Running your own race and focus on what you're doing is always going to be better, and knowing that your supporters and the group that you're working with is different, and there are things that other campaigns can do that will work for them, and vice versa. Like there are things that we did that probably wouldn't have worked for other folks. So sort of tuning out that noise. Even transparency is really good and an important thing, but not letting that get distract you, and just believing the data that you're seeing. I mean, we started off the race in such a different place than any of the other sort of top tier, in 1,000 different ways. But one of them is that we had an email list of like 20,000 people. So I wish we focused on list building and list growth from the beginning, but like I always wish we had gone bigger earlier, because that's sort of how you hockey stick and how you sort of really ride the big waves. And whether it's the Pizza with Pete moments, the October debate, which was a big fundraising surge for us, the Des Moines Register poll coming out, the LJ dinner. We had a lot of good times. But all of those, every time as a digital strategist, you always like, damn, I wish we had more people on our email list to be telling this to right now. For such a large portion of our campaign, our email list was a lot of donors. So we didn't have a ton of people new to convert, because we are, a good problem to have, but just such a large percentage of our email list was donors from the very beginning. Having a candidate in campaign leadership that believes in digital and has an understanding and trusts you to execute on a program is like such a gift, because every meeting you don't have to spend sort of justifying your seat at the table or justifying your program is a moment you can spend trying out new things and getting smarter. When you have a millennial candidate who is a cord cutter himself, is hugely beneficial, because he understands it. But that sort of, the candidate is has their job, but then the campaign leadership has their part, and is sort of more focused in your day to day, and helping decide budgets and resources of his time and sort of across the board. So having that is hugely beneficial. I don't know if that's like a lesson, but like, definitely find a candidate in the campaign that believes in it is helpful. I think one of the biggest things we practiced in our campaign that was a part of everything we're doing is sort of our go everywhere, talk to everyone strategy. Bridget on our team always likes to say, digital is not a strategy. Like just having a digital program is not going to win you an election, but like sort of whatever your strategy is, making that a part of your digital program and employing tactics in support of that strategy is how you run a successful program and a successful campaign. Well, successful in however you want to define that metric. Pete's ethos was about going everywhere, talk to everyone. Like that was part of his Liz Smith brilliant communication strategy from the beginning for a podcast. It was something we did on the ground in Iowa, going and talking, to voters who in traditionally red counties or places that, had voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. And that was something we did on digital too. So that was talking on the organic side on a lot of different platforms, but on the paid programming side of things, it was also like, running Hulu ads, running Roku ads, working with different networks and running, Facebook and Instagram, but sort of putting Pete's message everywhere. I think there was some article in one of in the Iowa State Daily or something, and somebody was like, "I'm so sick of going online and seeing Pete Buttigieg ads." Just like having that strategy of going everywhere and talking to everyone, I think it is important because you don't know where you're going to reach someone and what's going to be the most impactful. So that's should be something that every campaign is doing in 2020, and then especially doing it in sort of the COVID era and the sort of reality that we've all sort of been living in. So I think the October debate is a moment that I'm particularly proud of because it was, first and foremost, Pete had a great debate, but then we had a team back in South Bend who was able to sort of catapult that moment and capitalize on it in a really meaningful way for all of our different goals and objectives.
I'm running to be the president who can turn the page and unify a dangerously polarized country while tackling those issues that are going to be just as urgent then as they are now.
So we were fully running a robust fundraising and acquisition program. So we were able to sort of ride that wave that came from his great performance. But then also turn that into content and get that in front of the right voters in the early states as well. We for every debate, we ran a really robust sort of clipping rapid program for digital ads. Because yes, there's the important sort of work that's being done in the war room on the Twitter side and shaping sort of the narrative that's coming out from there. But on the paid side, we would work to clip all of Pete's best moments from a debate and run those directly, because there are so many people who, even in these early states, who weren't tuning into one of the 7,000 debates that we had spread out over multiple nights. So we would in real time clip and caption and get those out in front of the people who were caucusing or voting, not only in terms of those clips, but then the next morning we put out a really cool video of all the talking heads talking about how Pete had done a great job. It was sort of we were fully operational by then and able to sort of capitalize on that.